Hello, friends. It's been a little while, maybe a year really, that I sat down and did a transmission of my personal journey to the camera. I'm still too afraid to go live. I did it a couple of times a couple of years ago and it really just fires up my nervous system, and I'm not there yet. So I'm still doing these to camera in my own space without the pressure of feeling watched. But I will get there with the lives because I understand intellectually, spiritually, that really that's there's nothing to be afraid of. It's an old story. It's an old wound that I am healing about the fear of being seen, and I'm sure many people can relate. Social media gives us this opportunity to show up however we choose to and present ourselves in a way that could be, and often is, pretty inauthentic, and just showing the shiny, happy, glossy, easy, beautiful parts of ourselves, kind of like creating an avatar. And it's my intention to show up in the most authentic way that I can when I show up online. And that's always changing, and there are many different parts to me, so it's always changing, and I experiment as well with how I present myself online as I go through shifts, as I unlock parts of myself that have been dormant, that have been inactive and suppressed, like my power. I will change the way I show up online, but my intention, and it has been for the last 3 years, is to be authentic and to be vulnerable, because authenticity to me is about power and strength, and also vulnerability, which is also strength. And I'm certainly someone who knows vulnerability and sensitivity. And that's why this transmission, I want it to be a podcast one day, just putting that out into the ethers. It's been an intention for ages. I have many ideas that haven't yet come to fruition. That's one of them. But Wild Woman Wisdom is the name of this, because, well, it's all in the name. Wild. We are wild. We are wild beings. And what's happening at the moment is the awakening of the divine feminine, of course the masculine also within each of us, but we've had this imbalance for thousands of years of masculine and feminine, with the masculine being on top, being out of balance with the feminine, suppressing the feminine. And I'm talking energetics here, not blaming men. And now we're seeing this rising of the divine feminine within all of us. And so it's wild woman. Oh, there's a fox. Wild woman wisdom, because I am a wild woman and I am here to share my wisdom, which today I'm coming with not too much structure. I had a little download earlier and I wrote a few notes, because the masculine in me really likes things to be linear and in an order. And I feel like if I just sit in front of the camera and talk, there's been so many thoughts going through my head in the past week, which makes me know that it's time to express them and share them. And I can be very feminine in the way that I talk, going in circles, in loops, sometimes coming back to the point and sometimes going off like this. And which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But I think for the purposes of this, of sharing with the wider world, it's good to have that balance of the masculine and feminine. And that's what I really want to talk today about, is my current journey of healing, awakening, processing, learning, growing as a being, as a human. And this, what I'm witnessing is a real recalibration and balancing of the masculine and feminine energies within me. I'm just loving how wild my hair is, by the way. It hasn't been washed or brushed for a little while, so I'm definitely feeling like a wild woman while sitting in a London flat. There we go, see, off on one. So yes, so to start this conversation, I will introduce you to my wrist, which has been, if you don't know, if you haven't been following me, if you're just coming across this video and you don't know me, my name's Olivia Wood, by the way. I broke my wrist about 9 weeks ago while on a mountain in Bulgaria. It was quite an adventure. And it's not the first time that I've broken bones. In fact, that's a pattern for me, which I'm really delving into to break the pattern. Oh, excuse the pun, but to change this, to change the trajectory of this story, to change the story, because I don't really want to keep breaking bones. And so yeah, I've been really looking at it with curiosity and compassion. And the reason my right wrist is also being supported right now is because 3 years ago I broke my right shoulder. See this lovely scar? I had 2 surgeries there, one to put metal in, metal plate and pins, and then one to take out. So 2 surgeries. I also broke this wrist and had surgery on this wrist. So I've had 4 surgeries in the past 3 years. And if you've ever had a surgery, you'll know probably that it's quite a big trauma for the body, for the nervous system. And I have been really, really deep in shadow work in the past 3 years, triggered by these various accidents and surgeries that have brought out my traumas, my past traumas, which had been in the shadows, stemming from the womb, really going back to the womb. And I won't go into my story today. I don't think, but it's about, yeah, it's been a real journey of going into the shadows, and it's just been rebirth after rebirth after rebirth, ego death, dark night of the soul, healing, rebuild, back to the light. And it's kind of been like this. So yeah, it's been a real process the last 3 years. And what I can see from a higher perspective that has been happening has been, like I said, a rebalancing of the masculine and the feminine energies within me, and showing me where my masculine and my feminine were in shadow, and where I was operating from my wounding unconsciously, really living from my wounded inner child a lot of the time, especially when in close relationships, when triggered. When my abandonment wound would be triggered, I would be very much acting from this wounded place. And it's expressed itself in showing how I feel unsafe in the world, how I don't feel able to support myself in the world. I don't feel supported by others. I don't know how to, or I didn't, I should say in past tense, because I'm healing this. I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to express my needs. I didn't feel like I was deserving of money or love. And so I blocked it. Well, I'm really going off on tangents here. I'm not sticking to my list, but I will get there. It feels good to share. And I know that I'm here to share. I'm here to share my journey. And I know that every time I do, it touches someone or many people, I don't know. I get these messages of gratitude from people here and there. And even if it's just one every now and again, it's enough to make me know that I'm doing this not just for myself, but for other people too. And it's inspiring people. So that's why I do it. I also do it because I enjoy. It feels good to process and express myself, even though it's super scary. And I didn't do it for many years. I was projecting an avatar out into the world that was happy all the time, pretty, put together, only showing my successes for a long time. That was what I projected out to the world. But like I said, now it's about being authentic and sharing the knocks and the challenges, as well as the successes. So going back to this masculine and feminine, I think it's interesting that 3 years ago, the injuries I had were to the right side of my body. And if you are familiar at all with Chinese medicine, Indian, Ayurvedic, this kind of Eastern rather than Western approach to medicine and healing and health, the right side of the body is the masculine side energetically, and the left side of your body is the feminine. Okay, so I'm just wondering if, because I'm being filmed here, there's a mirror where I'm pointing, but this is my right side. And 3 years ago, I broke my, as I said, the shoulder, the wrist, and I also really hurt my knee. So I was then forced to really look at my relationship with the masculine, with the masculine, and as in the men in my life, and the relationships I was having with men, which were very toxic, codependent, abusive, and I gave my power away, just gave it away to the men because I wanted them to hold me and look after me and hold my inner child. My inner child wanted to be parented, really, and I didn't know how to do that for myself. So in the last 3 years, I've been on a real journey to learn how to parent my inner child, who was very wounded and very scared. And I've learned how to be my own dad, meaning really looking at my relationship to money. And by the way, I haven't fixed and got to the finish line with these things. It's a work in progress, but this is my journey. So looking at my relationship with money, I started to, for the first time, start to ask questions about where did my beliefs about money come from? Were they serving me? How they were holding me back? Looking at how I gave my power away to men, expecting them to do that for me, to be the provider, to be, financially and even emotionally, how I couldn't hold myself. And I started to bring in a lot of sort of masculine attributes to my life, starting really with the morning practice. And it was really about structure and discipline. I was really lacking that. I was floating through life. I suppose you could say I was more in my feminine, but I was in a wounded aspect of my feminine, the wounded maiden rather than the mother. And I was floating through life, kind of waiting for a man to rescue me. And I feel in a different place now. I feel like I've done a lot of work around this, a lot of deep reflection, healing work, hard truths, facing these hard truths, ugly truths about myself and how I was being in the world, and then forgiving myself as well. That's so important. Shadow work. It's been murky. and I have really established some structure and discipline in my life, which I didn't have before. Showing up for myself, giving myself support, showing myself every day that I'm worthy of support. And it came down to things like simple things, maybe for you, maybe not, if you're listening, but like feeding myself regularly. I wasn't doing that. I have had a history of eating disorders, which I was really quite oblivious to how they were still affecting me. I thought that was a thing of my teens and 20s, but it wasn't. I was still depriving myself of food and waiting for other people to feed me. Sounds crazy, but that's how it was, or waiting for when I was starving to like finally grab a bite. So I was not looking after myself, and I've now come to a place where every day I feed myself 3 times a day. I've really, in the past year, been forced to look at my diet as well, because I thought I was pretty healthy, actually. The lies we tell ourselves. But I was really living on a lot of carbs and indulging in sweet things because I could get away with it, because I have a fast metabolism. And, you know, it was much more about the external than the internal, really, for me, until my health started going wrong and I was like forced to look at it. So at the beginning of last year, I had I had COVID, which, was it last year or the year before? It was last year. Yeah. It's been such a blur these past 3 years. So when I first had COVID, it really set my gut issues off in a big way. And I felt like I was really seriously ill. And the doctor said I was fine. I won't go into a rant about Western medicine and the NHS and GPs right now, but there's a rant in there. But anyway, I was forced to look at my health and take responsibility for my health, which is a very good thing, and see a nutritionist and do some proper gut testing, which they don't do in the NHS, and found out all sorts of things were going on in my gut. I wasn't absorbing minerals, very low pancreatic enzyme activity, super dehydrated, low calcium and iron levels. So I was basically experiencing symptoms of anemia and hypoglycemia. I thought I was diabetic. I felt like I was going to faint a lot of the time. When I ate, my belly would expand out to make me look about 6 months pregnant. It was very, very painful, constantly constipated. And yeah, all of these symptoms I took to my doctor and he told me I was fine. The rant. Anyway, so back to the divine masculine and fathering myself. I've taken responsibility for my health. Finally. I thought I was quite healthy before because I got away with these things. I got away with parties, binge drinking, smoking, binge eating, starving myself. Got away with all this for years and no one really knew. And I thought I was pretty healthy. And on the outside, I think I looked pretty strong and healthy. No one really questioned it. But yeah, breaking my bones forced me onto this journey of real self-inquiry and really facing the things that I'd pushed into the shadows about my health. And I can now say that I am doing a lot better on that front. So I was really quite shocked when I broke this wrist. In retrospect, which I'll talk about now, I understand the lessons. But it came as a bit of a shock, and my initial reaction was, this is so unfair. I've done so much hard work. Why are you punishing me, God? You're so mean. This is so unfair. I just went into my inner child again, or teenager maybe, of just, life's not fair. This is not fair. But I've had 9 weeks to reflect, and actually pretty quickly I came to, pretty soon, in fact, as soon as it happened, I started questioning why it happened. That's the way I am. And I have, been absorbing the lessons and the insights. And it's interesting now that this is the left side of my body, the feminine. And what I feel that these last 9 weeks have taught me is it's really time to balance the feminine in my life. I've done a lot of work on the masculine with this morning routine, with this focus on my business, with this focus on pushing and putting myself out there and doing and striving and having goals. I've been really implementing that, but I lost a little bit the flow, the feminine, the ability to rest and receive. I sleep well at night because I'm always exhausted by, my nervous system is done by the evening and needs a good long sleep. So I'm blessed in that way, but except on a full moon, I don't sleep, but most of the time I sleep pretty well. But in the daytime, I don't rest, or I didn't rest. I didn't know how to sit down and relax. It wasn't relaxing for me to sit down because my mind would be thinking of 10 things I should be doing and looking around and going, oh, I've got to do the washing up. I've got to hang laundry. I need to reply to that email. Just like, especially since being back in London and being in this vibration, which is very masculine energy. So I've been allowed this time to rest because I had to, and I feel like I have to justify that. There's still a story here of justifying the need for rest, which is so much in our programming. A well-deserved rest. Well, why do we have to deserve it? So I have had to sit with my arm usually like higher above heart level to help with the inflammation in my wrist. And for the first month or 6 weeks, because I had surgery 2 weeks after I got home, so that delayed the process of healing, sort of took me back to the beginning, even worse, because surgery is just, it was so painful. So yeah, I had to spend a lot of time sitting and really observing how difficult that was for me and what stories were underneath that about, like I said, having to deserve rest and the fear of not doing and feeling valued because I've done, and ticking off that to-do list and getting that little dopamine rush and feeling like if I don't do, will I be judged? Will I be welcome? It's like we've been taught that we need to do to prove our worth, but really we are worthy just by being. Society won't tell you that, but that's the truth. So I have now been allowed this time to start honoring my feminine, and I'm finally getting onto my list now. So yeah, this was about learning how to rest and learning how to receive, because of course I couldn't work. I'm starting to get back to some more work now, but I couldn't work in the beginning. My nervous system was shot. I was in a lot of pain. I had to just look after my arm and my health and myself, my whole self. And so I had to receive money from my mum, from the government to pay my rent, and receive also help from people, because for the first few days after surgery I couldn't wash up. I could just about go to the toilet and come back and sit down again, otherwise I would be, well, sorry, there's like a fly or something making can you hear that? There's a fly making a crazy noise. I think it's stuck in the window. I think a spider's got it. Anyway, so yeah, learning how to receive, because I needed help and it was awkward. It was awkward, but I put a post out on Facebook and said, I need some support. And I got a friend of mine then shared it and put it out to her network. And suddenly I had a lot of people that I didn't even know asking if they could come around and see me. And it was like, it was hard to receive that, but it was beautiful. And I was like, okay, this is part of the message here. Are you receiving enough in your life? Because I'm always thinking about how I can give and do more, but there must be a balance. There must be a balance. And another way that I feel the rising of the divine feminine in me, and my inner guidance system telling me to balance my feminine more, is through self-pleasure. So I don't usually talk about sex and self-pleasure on here, online. But that's just another taboo shame program that is getting extracted from me. I've been really shut down from my sexual energy since my last relationship. So I've been pretty much celibate for 3 years. And that includes self-pleasure. And it's just starting to come back online now, come back into action. And I acknowledge that it's not something that I don't often get spontaneous desire, which is an actual medical term. I've been doing some research, some reading on this topic. So it's something that I have to actually actively make time for. So that's the masculine, like planning the time for it. So the feminine can then be in the space to enjoy. And also I've been learning how to really, really slow down, not just in daily life. Everything I do has been a lot slower, a lot more presence, but with self-pleasure as well, like not trying to achieve an orgasm, not trying, there's no destination, but just how does it feel to just stroke my arm for 20 minutes and just give myself that oxytocin, which I used to crave so much from another being, but I'm really learning how to give that to myself. So I feel like I'm in this portal, this really amazing, important, portal's not quite the right word, I can't quite think of the word, but transition between the maiden and the mother at the moment. I am not birthing a human right now, but I am birthing myself into being a mother. I'm transitioning from that maiden by healing all those wounds of my childhood and my adolescence and my 20s and 30s, and making space for this new energy to come through of the mother. And that requires being balanced in my masculine and my feminine. And it requires putting my pleasure and my fun and my happiness first in order that my cup be full, so I can then be of service in the world. So yes, the feminine has been teaching me how to slow down, how to do everything much more slowly and consciously, to stop going off into the pattern of multitasking, doing 4 things at once and then planning the next 10 in my head at the same time. I'm very good at that. Can move around like a butterfly, but that's not sustainable all the time. That might be okay in my summer, in my spring and summer, in my season of my moon time, of my feminine cycle, but not in the winter and the autumn. And interestingly, I used to always dread the autumn and winter months, but now recently because of my injury, I've actually really appreciated the progesterone and the slower and the heavier energy, because that's enabled me to sit down and calmly relax. Whereas usually I would push through that desire to sit and keep doing and doing and doing until I bleed, and then maybe take a day off but feel guilty about it. So I have been doing this for the last few years, but definitely in the last 2 months, I've been really, really tracking and listening to my body and my cycle, noticing how the different hormone balances in my body affect me massively. How that rise in estrogen can feel so empowering, but then also can feel a bit overwhelming, because there's just so many ideas and so much going on in so much I want to share, so much heart opening, it can almost feel like a bit too much. And then how that progesterone and that after ovulation, the calming last 2 weeks of the cycle, are actually not to be feared and to be avoided and to be distrusted, but to be embraced. Because I am a feminine being. And yeah, so I really am grateful for this injury and for this time to have sat still and listened to the insights, to what life is trying to show me about how I am being asked to move forward, and what my true desires are, and that they are to live in harmony with my cycles, to not work when I have my period, to really take that sacred time as sacred and as mine, as a time to go inward and process and not feel guilty, and to openly say, to cancel plans, to not be available in those times, and also in my autumn to really slow down and to be more introspective and to just really listen to my body and with what she needs all the time, because it's always changing. To really feel my emotions, to express my emotions, not to project them onto others, but to allow them, to feel them, to express them, and to express to others my needs and my boundaries. I've been seeing how I've allowed my boundaries to be crossed. I'm seeing that good girl in me, the good girl archetype, she's still there. She still wants everyone to like her. And how, as the mother, she needs to transform to be a woman who puts herself first, because she knows that's for the highest good of all. So I am welcoming into this next chapter self-pleasure, fun, play, joy, excitement, rest, receiving, valuing my own worth, and connection. Another blessing of this chapter, of this injury, is that I have landed in this beautiful flat with a friend of mine who I've known over the years, and we've never known each other super well, but now I've got this opportunity to connect with her and to build a community in London, where I'm from and where I've always been trying to escape from and run away from. And I do still see my future in another country, Portugal, at this point. But I know that I had some loose ends here, some root stuff to heal. And part of that is to feel really supported and connected in my home lands. And I feel that now. I have a beautiful flatmate, and I have manifested a community around me. Like I said, I've been able to receive and allow people in, and I've been reconnecting with women, mostly women, in my life who I considered kind of acquaintances, but actually they're my sisters, they're my friends. And because I've become more open to receive, they've been able to come in, and that's really beautiful. So let me just scan my notes. I talked about self-pleasure, rest, receiving, self-worth. And yeah, there's one more quick piece to this, which is I have been called to be working as a doula for quite some time. I started the training in 2018, and I repeated the training in 2019, and then I repeated it again at the beginning of this year. And then I did the second part of the training, the postpartum doula training, this year too. But because it's a bit daunting for me, my ego, to start something new, to be open to criticism, failure, all the things, all the self-doubt, I've been putting it off and focusing on massage and yoga, because I've been doing those for 8 years. I know what I'm doing. It's easy. I know I'm really good at them. I've never become super successful, but I know I'm really good. I know I make people feel better. But hey ho, I can't do downward dog right now, and I definitely can't give a massage. So there was my big sign to jump into being a doula, and just to do it. So I'm putting that out there to the universe. I'm looking for clients, and I'm ready to start supporting mothers on their journeys, especially the postpartum period. That's where I feel particularly called right now, and that's a beautiful thing. And I have another big ambition up my sleeve, which is to be a DJ for conscious parties and gatherings. And ecstatic dance has been a big part of my life the last 5-6 years, and it's really helped me transition from party girl, taking a lot of stimulants to get through the long nights, to realizing that what I really wanted from the experience was connection, and to be in my body, and to enjoy those natural endorphins, the oxytocin, all those beautiful chemicals within me. And music, I love music, and I know I'm going to be a great DJ, but again, I've been putting it off because of the not knowing how it's going to work, not knowing how to make the money to get the equipment, a bit scared about all those knobs and to the technology. But yeah, I'm going to soon be making business cards which say Olivia Wood, doula and DJ. So watch this space. There is a big transition and transformation happening in me, and I'm really happy that I have shared this with you. And if it resonated and you would like to share anything in the comments, please do. And I send you lots and lots of love, and hope that your own journey of integrating the masculine and the feminine, and healing the wounds of the past, and mothering and fathering your own inner child is going well, and just reminding you and me that it's all about the journey, not the destination. And this is it. This is life. All of it. The ups and the downs, the shocks, the challenges, the deaths and the rebirths. It's why we're here. And with every time we die and get reborn, we are holding more light, and we can be of greater service to the awakening of humanity. So thank you for listening. Lots and lots of love.